I once paid college tuition for my husband's mistress, believing she was his cousin's daughter from Mexico. The rain had blown the door wide open, and his office floor was soaked. A silver laptop lay there, its surface catching the light like it had something to confess. I opened it just to check for water damage, but the screen lit up with a message still glowing. "Are you done yet? I miss your skin." My throat seized up like someone had pressed ice into my chest and held it there. The room didn't spin, it vanished. How much trust in a family betrayal story starts with one innocent act? Helen Griffith had spent 15 years believing she was safe. At 65, living in the quieter outskirts of Spokane, Washington, she had traded the rhythm of classrooms and chalkboards for a slower life tea in the mornings, the scent of lavender by the window, a stack of music books untouched but loved. Her husband, Donald Griffith, now 68, was a retired accountant. He kept things neat, numbers in order, doors always locked, smiles always controlled. They had no children together. Helen had entered the marriage after surviving an earlier divorce, after swearing off men who kept secrets. Donald, with his steady presence and gentle manners, had seemed like a man with nothing to hide. A year into their marriage, Donald introduced a young woman named Riley. He said she was the daughter of his half-brother from Mexico, someone Helen barely remembered meeting at a distant family wedding. Riley had just moved to Spokane, enrolled in a local college, and, according to Donald, needed some financial help. Tuition, rent, books. Just for a little while. Helen didn't question him. She was a retired teacher. She knew how hard education could be for girls with no support. And so, she agreed. Quietly, monthly. She paid Riley's tuition. Or so she thought. Riley rarely visited. She never called. Once or twice. Helen suggested inviting her over for dinner. Donald always made an excuse. She was shy, busy, homesick. And no, her parents never reached out. According to Donald, they were struggling too much back in Mexico to care much about American social rituals. Still, something felt off. Riley lived just 2 streets away, but seemed to exist only in the form of transfer receipts. Helen never saw a student ID, a class schedule, a book, but suspicion without proof can feel like betrayal. Helen chose to trust. After all, this was her husband. This was family. The storm came suddenly that Saturday. Donald had left early in the morning, saying he was going to a reunion trip with some old co-workers 4 days on the coast, somewhere quiet and sunny. Helen stayed home. The rain hit fast and hard. By late afternoon, wind had blown open the side door to Donald's office. Water spilled across the floor, soaking the rug, seeping into the walls. The door had been locked, as always. Helen called a locksmith, then a cleaning service. When they were gone, she started wiping down surfaces, salvaging what she could. That's when she saw it. The silver laptop was hidden beneath a stack of old tax files in the lowest drawer of the locked cabinet. Its lid was slightly warped from the humidity. Helen knew she shouldn't touch it, but she also knew Donald wasn't here, and it might be damaged. The password was his birthday. The desktop opened. The first window was a message, left open. Helen read one line before her breath stopped. "Are you done yet? I miss your skin." Then came the photos. Riley, not in a classroom, but in a small nail salon downtown, filing someone's nails with a grin. Then, Riley again, only this time in Cancun, in a white bikini, pressed into Donald's arms, his lips on her forehead, her hands around his waist, a tropical drink in the corner of the frame. There were folders marked tuition transfers. Inside, they were not school records but bank transfers, itemized logs, receipts for spa weekends, lingerie, hotel reservations. Helen's hands moved on their own. She opened a video. Donald's voice, late at night, whispering, "She still thinks you're in school." "Don't worry, sweetheart. She never asks." Helen sat down hard, not even noticing the water still under her shoes. Her heart didn't race. It felt hollow, a clean space where warmth had once lived. Her throat ached, as if someone had been gripping it for hours. She tried to close the screen, but her fingers kept rubbing at a smudge that wasn't there, like she could erase it all by wiping harder. She felt the cold through her jeans. She felt the cold in her bones. A lifetime of careful trust crumbled in a single, pixelated kiss. 15 years. She had built a life with this man, shared her home, her money, her body, her past. And he had taken all of it and spent it on a lie so detailed, so slow, so complete, it made her question every dinner, every word, every smile. This was not just cheating. This was not just lying. This was a family betrayal story dressed up as kindness. A betrayal that used Helen's goodwill as the mask for a much darker truth. It was financial abuse. It was financial infidelity. And it was her life, ripped wide open by a storm and a careless door. In the silence of that room, she spoke aloud to no one, her voice hoarse. If he needed someone else that badly, why did he have to use my kindness to feed her? The rain had stopped outside, but inside her, something had just begun to break. I used to believe that kindness didn't need limits, that helping someone, especially family, was always the right thing to do. But kindness without boundaries, without legal awareness, can turn into a weapon in someone else's hands. We cannot give away our trust and finances just because someone uses the word relative. Donald crafted every part of the lie. He invented the family connection, exaggerated Riley's needs, and positioned me as the perfect cover. He didn't just deceive me emotionally, he used my own generosity to sustain a secret life. But I wasn't entirely blameless. I never asked for receipts. I never verified the details. I confused silence with respect. And in doing so, I abandoned my right to transparency. After the storm, I didn't collapse. I couldn't afford to. I copied every message, every photo, and every transaction from the laptop onto a secure USB. I printed it all and had it certified for legal purposes. I included not just the financial proof, but the timeline of deceit dates, transfers, and repeated patterns of behavior. I contacted a divorce attorney who specialized in cases involving emotional harm. We filed a petition for divorce on the grounds of prolonged deception, emotional distress, and misuse of marital property. In court, I demanded equitable distribution of our remaining assets. I also pursued a civil claim for intentional infliction of emotional distress. It was difficult, but I had documentation from my therapist, sleep disturbances, anxiety attacks, symptoms of trust trauma. The court examined the financial records, communication logs, medical documentation. The ruling was clear. Donald was ordered to repay 60% of the marital funds he had funneled to Riley. He was held responsible for covering 1 year of mental health treatment expenses. I was granted the right to remove my name from all joint property titles and restructured my will, ensuring my remaining assets would be protected. What I went through was not just heartbreak, it was a calculated violation. In many grey divorce cases, the cheating husband leaves behind more than just betrayal. He leaves behind a trail of damage, legal, emotional, financial. This was more than a broken marriage. It was a family betrayal story, disguised as generosity, and it took the law to unravel it. Helen packed lightly. She left behind the house with its stained carpets and locked drawers. The kitchen she once believed was built for two. She took only what mattered, the old teapot her mother had given her on her wedding day, a handwritten notebook of her favorite piano pieces, and the jasmine plant that had bloomed faithfully every spring outside their porch. She found a small apartment near the river in Spokane. It wasn't fancy, but it had a window that let in soft light every morning and enough space for her upright piano. She didn't want silence to consume her, so she offered piano lessons at the local church. Children came with shy fingers and bright eyes. Helen taught them gently, not just music, but steadiness, patience, rhythm. On Sundays, she met Claire, a friend from college she hadn't seen in years. They walked slowly around the park, two older women in long coats, laughing like schoolgirls, sipping tea from paper cups. They didn't talk about the past. They talked about small things, and that was healing enough. Helen never contacted Donald again. She heard, through the attorney, that the young woman left him not long after the court ruling. The money was gone. So was the thrill. Donald now lived alone in a rented unit on the other side of town, waiting for the last legal proceedings to close. But Helen didn't ask for details. She didn't need to know. There was no revenge in her, only release. She didn't rebuild herself out of fury. She didn't stand taller out of pride. She simply chose to remember who she was before she was deceived. And then, she began again. This was not just the end of a marriage. It was the quiet reclaiming of a life. A woman stepping out of the fog of a family betrayal story and into the sunlight of her own making. She didn't need applause. She needed peace. And she found it one note at a time. Under her own hands, she no longer played for the memories. She played for the space between them. She played for herself. If you're listening now, wondering if what you're seeing is real, don't wait for the flood to wash the truth into your lap. Check every expense that carries your name, especially the ones you didn't authorize. Ask questions, no matter how uncomfortable. Save copies. Speak carefully. And if needed, find a lawyer. If you've ever survived a crack like this in your life, share it in the comments. Someone like you may need to hear it. Someone like Helen. Someone like me. Someone like you.